Hello children, welcome to NEET World. This is Narayani, I am your foundation faculty. In yesterday's class, we discussed about the topic of algae, right children? This is the fourth category of microorganisms that we discussed yesterday. Before recapping the yesterday's class, we are going to discussing about very important news children. The summer camp is providing by us from our institute name called NEET World. Our main motto is to get all free basics for you. First 1 week of classes all absolutely free children. In the 1 week of classes we are getting to tell you the all basics of the subjects of science, physics, biology and mathematics, right children. So this is very useful children for you, and the main motto of our summer camp course is to get you the concept level understanding or analysis of the basic concepts of the subjects of physics, chemistry, biology and mathematics. Our main motto is we are getting you mainly based on the focus of the areas of examinations of NEET and JEE. So children, we are giving you the 2 days of activity based learning and 1 day concept recap quizzes are providing for every week, and cumulative assessments of the all subjects, and main important thing children, we are giving you the one-on-one interaction of doubt clearing sessions children. We are providing you the doubt clearing sessions of one-on-one interaction, and most important thing, we will help you to achieve your goals, what kind of the path you have to choose. We will provide career guidance also, and the main motto of our our institute is to get to know about the clear analysis of the concepts of the which are very useful for the exams of NEET and JEE. It is very useful for you children. And one more important thing children, it is occur in both offline also and online also. For offline people, you can happily come to our institute name called NEET World, present in Hyderabad near Narayani G metro station. And those who want to access through online classes children, down streaming number is there no children, please contact with that number. Then we will give you the access for the classes. It is very important children, the first 1 week classes are free children, so don't miss this opportunity. And the mode of learning is through digital panel children, and we are creating a wonderful animations and videos to get to know the concepts very clear in detailed way. We are teaching you from the basic level to the higher level. And children, so don't miss this opportunity. The mode of medium is English medium for both CBSE also and SSC also. Don't miss this opportunity. So I will see you in the classes children. So before going to start the session today, just we will fastly recall the yesterday's class. We discussed about the category of algae, right children. So algae is mainly of unicellular, microscopic, multicellular, macroscopic, right children. So what are the examples of the unicellular algae? For the unicellular algae children, the examples are Chlamydomonas. For the unicellular algae, the example series is of, for the unicellular algae, the examples are Chlamydomonas, and Chlorella. And the multicellular organisms, multicellular algae, the examples are Spirogyra, Laminaria, Fucus. These are all examples of multicellular algae. And the algae is of various shapes. What are they children? They are spherical shaped, rod shaped and spindle shaped also. And coming to the multicellular algae children, they grow up to 180 meters also. They are we call large kelps. They are mostly seaweeds, right children. What is the example of the large kelps? Macrocystis, Macrocarpa, right children. So, and what is the basic length of the multicellular organisms? It is a 7 meters long. The example is Laminaria, right children. For the unicellular macroscopic algae, they are thallus-like body. Their body is attached to they have thallus-like body, which means they attach to the subastrum. Or we can see mostly in the tree barks, right children, moist woody places and all that. These are the examples of the unicellular algae. and these are the examples of multicellular algae. In multicellular algae, if they have specify the what is filamentous algae means, which means Spirogyra. If they ask colonial, it is Volvex, right children? So coming to its habitat, they mostly found in moist regions, puddles, ditches, rivers, streams and all that. And they are also called as large algae grow in oceans, we call it as seaweeds. They also, the varieties we call it as kelps, and algae is also called as grass of water, right children? Why they are called as grass of water? Where they are in the water, in the rivers, ponds, streams, they appear like a green film on the surface of the surface of lakes and ponds. They appear like a grass water. So that is why they appear like green like water. So that is why they are also known as grass of water. So these are the attached to the bark of trees. And what it is children? It is a lichen. Lichen is a association of symbiotic. It exhibits symbiotic association. What is meant by symbiotic association? What is meant by symbiotic relationship? It is a very unique children. So the symbiotic association means the both organisms get the in the symbiotic association, involvement of two organisms will be there. One is here the fungi and algae, right children? The fungi provides the shelter, and the fungi provides the shelter, and the algae prepares the food. Prepare the food. As the algae having the chlorophyll in it, they can prepare their own food, and the fungi provides the shelter. So the nutrients, the fungi provide the shelter. By that it absorbs the nutrients from its partner. What is the partner of fungi? Algae. These combination are seen in lichens. Lichens are exhibiting two combined combinations of fungi and algae. Algae we call it as phycobient. Algae we call it as children phycobient, and algae we call it as phycobient, and fungi we call it as mycobient. So fungi is heterotrophic. It is depending on the food for the algae, right? Heterotrophic. And coming to the algae, they are autotrophic. They are autotrophic. If they asked what is the autotrophic and heterotrophic in lichens, the algae is the exhibiting the heterotrophic nutrition because they can prepare their own food. But in the case of fungi, it is providing the shelter, right? It is depending on the food for the algae. So that is it is a heterotrophic, and this association we call it as a symbiotic association or symbiotic relationship. And lichens are the first painor species. These are the first species and also very good pollution indicators. They does not grow, lichens does not grow in the regions of where pollution is there. So they grow in unpolluted areas. They grow in unpolluted areas. So this is about we discussed children. So and also we discussed its shape. They are rod shaped, unicellular and multicellular. They are rod shaped, spindle shaped and also oval and elongated shape also. And the large kelps we call it as Microcystis microcarpa, and the laminaria is of 7 meters long. And so they have the thallus like body, which means they attach to any subastrum like tree barks, moist stones and all that. And they exhibit multicellular algae exhibit the leaf like, root like, stem like structures. And the examples are fucus and sargassum for it. And children, see here, so these are the rod shaped algae. These are the spherical shaped algae, rod shaped algae and spindle shaped algae, and it is a club shaped algae. So club means there more number of algae is placed in one place. So there is example is Volvex. So they form colonies. So what are the examples of, they asked what are the examples of the unicellular algae and all that means, for unicellular algae the examples are Calamidomonas, Chlorella. So for the multicellular algae, Fucus and Polysiphonia, and colonial is Volvex higher, there it will be seen on children, they form colonies. So they appears like this, children. 1 minute. See, I will show the picture only for you. So they show the volvics. So colonial exhibits the algae of volvics. For the multicellular filaments, they exhibit the Spirogyra and Ulithrix. Spirogyra and Ulithrix. Spirogyra and Ulithrix. So these are the examples of the unicellular, multicellular, colonial and multicellular filamentous. So children, and they also exhibit different colors. What they exhibit, children? Algae occurs different colors. Their names are such as they called as based on the color, based on the pigment they produce. We can call them as red algae, brown algae and green algae. This is because of the chlorophyll pigment. This is because of the besides the chlorophyll pigment. So there are the pigments named called red carotenoids. You know, those pigments we can categorize the algae by the colors. So besides the algae, they also contain pigment mask like green color, you know, red color, brown color, green color and all that. It is mainly seen in marine algae, which means in oceans we mostly seen in this type of algae. And coming to the today's session, children. So there we got studied it. So see here, do you know that giant kelps of the eastern Pacific grow more than 61 meters? So you know these are the giant kelps. The example of it is Macrocystis macrocarpa. They grow in the eastern Pacific Ocean, children. They grow up to 61 meters in length and dense in marine forest. They are also called as, these are very much large as it is there in, you know, 61 meters, we call them as dense marine forest. They look like in the ocean, they appear like a forest in nature. And Calamidomonas nivalis is a unicellular red color algae. And they show like this, children. In the snowfields, they are like, you know, like watermelons. So see, in the snow, in the snowfields, how the algae is, you know, how the algae is grown there. So here it imparts the red color to the snow. So it gives the red colors to the snow. So this is the one of the competitive basis of the exams. They ask this type of questions, children. The giant kelps of the eastern Pacific more than, they are also called as marine forest. And coming to the, in polar regions, in Alps, you know, they exhibit the color of red colored in the snowfields. So coming to the next, its cell structure of the algae, children. Is the algae having the cell wall? Of course it is having the cell wall, because algae is come under the group of plant kingdom. Algae is placed in a plantae, right, children? So they have the cell wall. So cell is covered by the cell wall. So cell is covered by the cell wall. This is the cell wall, children. So nucleus, various cell organelles. This is the nucleus. Well developed nucleus is only there because the nucleus is covered by nuclear membrane and nuclear envelope. And different type of cell organelles also is seen here. So here it is the, you know, chloroplast is there, mitochondria is there, vacuole is there. So Golgi complex is there. There are various type of cell organelles. They work for the function of the cell. For the function of the cell, these cell organelles all together to helps in the to perform to perform the functions of to get the all functions should be get done by the cell. At present in the cell, unicellular algae have one or more flagella. Some unicellular algae having the flagella also for this locomotion, for the movement, and they also possess chlorophyll and other pigments provide the distinct color. Besides the chlorophyll, if they have the red pigment, they exhibit the, you know, red algae. If they exhibit the brown pigment, they call it as brown algae. Based on the pigments, they exhibit the different types of colors. So they coming to its cell structure, children, they have the cell wall and various type of cell organelles like mitochondria, chloroplast, vacuole, Golgi complex, ribosomes, all will be present. So unicellular algae having the one or more flagella also for its locomotion. Besides the chlorophyll, they have the other pigments. So they show the different types of colors. So coming to the its nutrition, they are algae having the chlorophyll, which means they can prepare their own food. They come under the group of autotrophic, right, children? Which organisms? The organisms which can prepare their own food, we can categorize them as the autotrophic. The mode of nutrition for them as a Autotrophic nutrition. Auto means self and tropic means nutrition. So this is how the nutrition of the algae performs. So algae are able to prepare their own food, of course, because they are having the chloroplast in it, and by photosynthesis. It consists the major food producers of the aquatic habitats. You know children, for the marine habitat, the most algae and small fishes, they depend on the food for the algae only. So they move for the marine marine organisms, the mainly algae is the main source of food for the aquatic animals. So they can prepare their own food because they are having the chlorophyll. And coming to its reproduction, children. So reproduction in algae takes place both sexually and asexually. So for the asexual mode of reproduction, they exhibit the fragmentation. So fragmentation, fission and spore formation. Fragmentation, fission and spore formation. So what is meant by fragmentation? So see here children, when we are studying the fungi reproduction also, we discussed about the fragmentation. So fragmentation is nothing but, if it is the fragment, when they are matured or when there are favorable conditions and when there enough food is available, this spirogyra, it is a spirogyra. So this spirogyra splits into filaments. This is how makes the filaments, which means they are they split into small pieces, nothing but we call it as fragments. Each fragment, when they are enough food and when they are matured, when they are able to split out into two or one or more fragments, then they are able to regenerate the whole. Then they regenerate the whole part of the fragments, and then when they are after each fragment, they are able to grow remaining part of the regeneration will happen in this organism. Next, when they are having enough food, then they split into again the fragments, and each fragment again regenerates into the whole organism. So this is how the fragmentation occurs in spirogyra. And coming to the fission, what is meant by fission, children? Fission is nothing but the splits into two. So in bacteria also we studied up the fission, right children? Fission is nothing but it is asexual reproduction is mainly the daughter cells are exactly identical to the parent. In fission, the parent individual cannot be seen, because when it is able to give rise to the daughter cell, it becomes twice in amount and then splits into two. So actually the parent itself is dividing here. In budding, the parent will be seen. The outgrowth, it gives the outgrowth of the, in example of yeast, it gives the outgrowth. Then it is when the favorable condition, when it is having the enough food, it is again gives the outgrowth of the yeast, or else it is provide the chain of buds, right children? In fission it is not like that. The parent individual itself is giving rise to the daughter cells. They are exactly identical to the parent. So here that is given, children. In fragmentation, the cells of the body separates into two fragments. The cells of the body separate into fragments, and then again it regenerates the whole part of the body, and again when the favorable conditions, it again splits into two. So in fission, the body splits into two, which means the parent individual itself splits into two. These are all occur in favorable conditions only. In algae, the example of the for the fission is Calamidomonas. So this is about the asexual reproduction, children. And children, so you all see the algae is spread into the whole over the ponds, lakes and like that. That we call it as algal bloom. It is mainly increased by the the more content of the nitrogen and phosphorus in the water. Why the nitrogen and phosphorus are more in why the the contents of the nitrogen and phosphorus more in abundant? Because in crop production and management we discussed about the eutrophication, right children? What is meant by eutrophication? The rapid increase of the contents of nitrogen and phosphorus in the water bodies, we call it as eutrophication. That all nitrogen phosphorus drain over from the fields of the crops. When the fertilizers are used more in amount, excessive use of fertilizers, excessive use of fertilizers when they are used in the in the fields of agriculture. When the heavy rains will be there, the contents of nitrogen and phosphorus are drained into the water bodies. Thereby the content of the in water, what will happen? The content of nitrogen and phosphorus increases more. So when the nitrogen and phosphorus is there, they are primary nutrients to the plant. The algae utilizes and grow more in the water. Such we call it as algal bloom. So see here, an algal bloom is a rapid increase of density of algae in aquatic system. In aquatic system, it is a rapid increase we see here. So algal bloom sometimes are natural phenomena, sometimes we will see by the naturally only. Because children, the water which have the more nitrogen and phosphorus, which is not utilizable for the humans also, because the contents which cannot we directly not dissolve the that mechanism is not there for us to directly dissolve the nitrogen and phosphorus. So but their frequency, duration, is intensity are increased by the nutrient pollution. It is caused by the excessive use of fertilizers and industrial wastes are directly mixed into the water bodies like that. So algae multiply quickly in water within overabundance of nitrogen and phosphorus. As their primary nutrients for the plants, the algae usually grow more, particularly when the water is warm and the weather is calm. When the water is warm and weather is calm, we can see the blooms of algae. It is like green in color, children. So it turns the water noticeably green, although the colors can occur. So which type of algae is grown there, we can see those type of colors in the water body. So this is because of the when the nutrient pollution will happen. So directly releasing to the industrial waste into the water, or else by the when the crops where they are used more amount of fertilizers, ultimately when the rain comes, the all the nutrients present in the soil drained out into the water bodies. Thereby the nutrient nitrogen and phosphorus increase in water body more in number. So more amount more quantity. So thereby the algae uses and it usually grows, and we call them as algal blooms. It is affects to the aquatic organism also, as the mostly oxygen is utilized by the algae. Then how the aquatic organisms can survive? No, right children? This is about the algal bloom. Coming to the another most important topic, children. So lichens, as we discussed, they exhibit the symbiotic association, algae and fungi. So these organisms formed by the symbiotic association. In crop production and management also, we saw the one important symbiotic relationship for the leguminous plants. They are in their root nodules, the bacteria is present in their root nodules. They are exhibiting leguminous plants exhibiting the symbiotic relationship. Here also, children, the lichens also exhibiting the same type of symbiotic association, but between the two different organisms, which one is algae and fungi. Algae bears chlorophyll, so they can prepare their own food. So fungi lacks the chlorophyll, but they provide the shelter to the algae. So from the fungi, the algae is getting the shelter, and from the algae the fungi is getting the nutrients, right children? So absorption of nutrients takes place by the fungi. So some examples of lichens are Eugenia, Cladonia. These are the examples of lichens. So in symbiotic association of lichens, children, the fungi we call it as mycobient, as it is cannot prepare their own food, they are dependent on the algae, they are called as heterotrophic. Coming to the algae, children, it is phycobient. Phyco means algae, right children? So phycobient. So as they can prepare their own food, they are exhibiting the autotrophic nutrition. So this is how the the algae, the lichens exhibit the symbiotic relationship. They are often seen in crust-like structures growing on the barks, wood logs like this, children, wood logs. So in damp places with low intensity of light, they does not require high intensity of light. They can, the characteristic feature of the algae, their habitat is mostly grown in the moist areas, right children. So the with low intensity of light, and which is, the moist places they can grow more, and mainly lichens are the pollution indicators. If they does not grow in unpolluted, they grow in unpolluted areas. They does not grow in pollution areas, right children. This is about the algae. So we discussed the fourth category, of the algae also. So children, as after the bacteria and fungi, we discussed about the difference between the what is the bacteria and fungal cell, right children. So this is how we also discussed now the difference between the algae and protozoa. So thereby you can know about very clear information on your mind, children. See here, definition. So algae have plant-like eukaryotic aquatic organisms. So because they have the multicellular in structure, and also as by unicellular also they exhibiting, they have the cell wall and other cell organelles. These cell organelles all together makes the cell functional. What are the cell organelles, children? Golgi complex, vacuole, mitochondria. These are all the cell organelles present in the algal cell. So coming to the protozoa, these cells very similar to the animal cells because they doesn't have cell wall. So that they say they doesn't have cell wall is not exhibiting by the protozoa, right. So algae plants like eukaryotic aquatic organisms, they lack true stem. Although they lack true stems, leaves and shoots, they are exhibiting the, they have the cell organelle, cell wall and all that. So coming to the protozoa, they are unicellular animals like aquatic organisms only, but they exhibit the very similar to the animals because they doesn't have the cell wall. So the type of nutrition of the algae is autotrophs. They can prepare their own food as a protozoa like plasmodium, right, paramecium, amoeba. They dependent on the food for the other, organisms, as they chose the food sources as smaller than those organisms like bacteria and all that. So cell wall, the cell wall is composed of cellulose. The cell wall of the algae is composed of cellulose, and in protozoa there does not have the cell wall. In protozoa there does not have the cell wall. That is why the protozoa is more closely to the relationship with the animal cells. So coming to the chlorophyll, the algae having the chlorophyll and protozoa doesn't contain chlorophyll. They are purely heterotrophic. They they depend on other organisms for their further nutrition and shelter. And coming to the cellular organization, children, there may be unicellular and multicellular. For the unicellular, the examples are of Chlamydomonas and Chlorella. For the multicellular, there are many Spirogyra, Fucus, Sargassum, and all that there is come under the group of multicellular algae. Coming to the protozoa, they are mostly unicellular only. Example is Plasmodium, Euglena, amoeba. These are some of the examples. And children, we discussed when we are studying the protozoa, euglena is the main interlink between the plants and animals, because when the light is available, that time the euglena performs the photosynthesis. They can prepare their own food. But when the light does not penetrate, so if the light is does not there, then it can depend on the other organisms. So it shows the mixotropic nutrition. It shows both autotrophic and heterotrophic nutrition, right children. This is what the speciality of the euglena. And coming to the examples of algae, they are seaweeds. Examples: Microcystis microcarpa, green algae, red algae, brown algae. Cyanobacteria is also called as blue green algae. we studied in the, when we are studying the crop production and management, right children. So the examples of the protozoa is amoeba, plasmodium, euglena, paramecium, entamoeba histolytica, leishmania. These are the examples of the protozoa children. So let's see here children. So till now what we discussed about the bacteria and fungi. See, we discussed about the bacteria, fungi, protozoa, algae, right children. Is the bacteria having the cell wall? Of course it is having the cell wall. So is the fungi having the cell wall? Of course it is also having the cell wall. So is the protozoa having the cell wall? No, it does not having the cell wall. Cell wall is not there. So coming to the algae, algae having the cell wall. So bacteria is kept in the group of Monera, right children. Fungi is group of fungi. So protozoa is kept in a protista. So algae is of the plant kingdom. The cell wall of algae is made up of cellulose. So bacteria cell wall is made up of peptidoglycans. The cell wall of fungi is made up of chitin. Right. So as they are, the bacteria, the nucleus, the genetic material is scattered in the cytoplasm only. In fungi, the cell wall is covered by, nuclear membrane and nuclear envelope. In protozoa also, we have seen the well developed nucleus only. In fungi also, we see the well developed nucleus only. Right children? So besides all this, the last category of viruses are very interesting topic children. They are very fascinating, organisms. We cannot consider them as a both, living also and non-living also. Why we cannot say living? Because if they have the cell, if they have the cell structure, if they have the cell, if they have the living function, we can consider them as a living. But they, the cell is not present because the function of the cells does not happens in the viruses. Coming to the non-living, that is why we consider as a non-living. But virus is attacking many plants, animals and like that, no children. So that is why these are the very interesting topic. So we cannot consider it as a living also, non-living also. We can say them as a borderline between the living and non-living. So if they are, if we consider it as a living, they cannot produce their own food also, they cannot utilize the food. So when they get the host, when the availability of the host, then only it reproduces, then only it absorbs. Right children? By the energy of the other organism, it will grow. Otherwise, it will be present in the space only. They are inert, like they are inert. Viruses are inert. Why? Because they cannot able to move. They cannot do any function till the host is available to them. So as we say, so as they are microscopic, children. So as they are microscopic, viruses are smaller than the bacteria. Viruses are smaller than the bacteria. As the bacteria is the microscopic organism, so viruses are smaller than the viruses. So they are non-cellular. They doesn't have any cellular functions in it. So virus doesn't have any cellular activities in it. They doesn't have any living functions in it. So living thing in it. So they doesn't have any cell functions in it to prepare their own, to prepare their own food, to can digest their own food and all that. So viruses are ultra microscopic. So we cannot see with light microscope also virus we cannot see, because they are ultra microscopes. They can see only with the help of electron microscope. So they are smaller than the bacteria and lack of cellular structure. They does not contain any cell organelles. They does not contain any cytoplasm and all that. They lack any cellular structure. So that is why we consider them as a borderline between the living and non-living. Outside the host, the virus are inert, which can, what is meant by inert children? Inert is nothing but they can't able to move, but they can be crystallized like non-living substances. But the see, they are crystallized. It is made up of proteins and fats, children. The genetic material present in it, it is protected by these crystalline structures. However, once inside the host cell, when they enter into inside the host cell, if the host is maybe the human, plant, bacteria, whatever it may be, when it is enter into the host, then it exhibits the living characteristic features by reproducing them they replicate themselves by using the energy of the host organism. What is meant by host, children? Host is nothing but who was providing shelter and for the absorbing of nutrients, the organism which is dependent on, right? So the host is using from the host the cellular machinery. What is the host's functions which can hand it? Actually, it is hijack the host, children, by for itself. The virus use host energy, it's grow and multiply. Then at last it destroys the cell only. Right, children? This is how the viruses work. So virus, when it's find host, children, when it's find host, it is replicate. Replicate is nothing but it's growing his army. How they can grow its army? With the help of using the host energy. Using the host energy by hijacking its protein machinery or cellular machinery. So they turn its cellular machinery according to them, then it utilizes and absorbs it, and then it replicates its whole army. This is how the virus works, children. So viruses are smaller than the bacteria. First they attack the bacteria, children. Then we call it as a bacteriophage. The virus which attacks the bacteria and present in it, we call it as bacteriophage. What we call, children? Bacteriophage. Then it is hand over all the machinery activities in the host. Example, humans. Through the bacteria, children, it is enters into the humans, right? So, and then it starts its activities. It's take over the machinery of the humans, and then it's replicate its army, and then it destroyed the cell. This is how the virus will be performed. So see here, children, as we know, what are the characteristics of viruses? They say they are smaller than the noun cell, cannot be seen with light microscope, so they can be seen with the only electron microscope. So because it magnifies up to 2 lakh times, and it doesn't have any cellular structure. They don't resemble other microorganisms. This does not exhibit any cellular functions and cellular structures. Not capable to find independent life. They cannot, by the host only they can grow, they can replicate, they can reproduce themselves. Otherwise they cannot able to lead an independent life. So cannot reproduce also without host. They cannot reproduce, cannot respond to changes, they cannot use energy and grow by themselves. With the help of the host only they can grow. They observe, they respond and utilize its energy. Not considerably living organisms. By these characteristic features we can say that they are not living organisms, because absence of basic unit of functions, basic life of functions. They does not have any basic life functions also. These are the key characteristic features of the viruses. See here, this is the bacteriophage, this is the example of adenovirus, and this is the example of HIV virus, children. So virus reproduction and spread. How the virus reproduce inside the cell? Example is human beings. It is with the help of the bacteriophage. In humans, the bacteria present is E. coli, children. It is present in the gut of the humans. The bacteria present in humans is E. coli. It is present in small intestine. So when the virus attacks the bacteria, we call it as bacteriophage. With that bacteriophage, children, so it handles the cellular function, cellular protein mechanism of the cell of the humans. Then it is reproduced by using the energy of the cell and all that. It reproduces itself and replicate itself into army. Then when it is all utilizes, the all army will be lysis out. It's come out. Total how many how many number of the army it produces, that all releases out, and those will be again find another cells to reproduce themselves. At last the host will be die. So children, this is how the virus penetrates, attaches, how virus penetrates and attack the living organisms. Not only humans, children, they can affect the plants also. They use the energy of the host cells for the reproduction. After producing thousands of viruses, this host cell will be burst and often dies. After the thousands of viruses, it will itself harm the host cell, and the whole thousands of viruses will be come out. The new virus again spread and invade other cells. In human cells there are 3.72 trillion cells will be there. After lysing of one cell, the thousands of army of the virus can invade to the find the another cells and try to damage them. So virus infect bacteria also. The virus which infect bacteria, we call it as bacteriophage. They can infect plants, animals and humans also. Virus infect bacteria are called bacteriophages. So they cause very serious diseases, especially important to crop plants, children. So in crop plants, firstly the virus observed in tobacco plants, children. Tobacco plants, by the scientist, they consider them as, children, when they find the viruses in the tobacco plants, they are considered them as the, they are smaller than the bacteria. They consider them as, some it is a pathogen. It is a pathogen which is utilizing the, all the activities of the organism, and it is surviving. Later, the scientist name called, Ivansky. First the virus described by the Dmitry Ivansky, children. Later the scientist, so many scientists came to know that, and they defined the viruses as, they are smallest organisms than the bacteria, and they are affecting this whole plants, animals and all that by the using its energy. So the study of viruses, we call it as, children, virology. So after that, so that is why we are considering that virus is a link between living and non-living, children. So for the non-living characteristics, what are the we are placed in a non-living characteristics? Because they don't have cell wall and also cell organelles and doesn't have any cytoplasm. So cannot grow or metabolize food. They cannot itself cannot break down the food materials. When it is outside the host, they cannot even prepare their own food, cannot metabolize, which means nothing but breakdown of the food. They cannot multiply on their own. They cannot reproduce also, and they don't respire. They cannot respire also, breathe. So can be crystallized and stored long periods. As they are crystallized in structures, it is made up of proteins and fats. The genetic material is safe. That is why they are inert, children. They can't able to move on one place to another, but through the space, they infect the host cells. By using its machinery, it can reproduce. That is why the living nature, the living traits present in the viruses. That is why we cannot consider it a non-living also, living also. We can consider them as a living border in between. So we kept in a place of borderline of the living and non-living. Depend entirely on the host cell for the biological activities for the survival. To survive itself, they absolutely have the host organism in it. So for the what are the living characteristics we can say, as we discussed children, they can mutate and change and replicate with the help of the infective strength, which means with the help of the host only. So they contain DNA also, or DNA or RNA. Genetic materials enclosed in a protein coat. The genetic material safe is because of the protein coat only. It is made up of either the proteins and fats. The virus which attacks the plants are mostly having the single stranded RNA. The genetic material of the virus is RNA. For the animals, for the animals or the humans, it is maybe the single stranded RNA or double stranded RNA or double stranded DNA. For the plants, we mostly see the RNA is the main genetic material which is affecting the plants. The virus which having the RNA is most widely attacking the plants is RNA. The genetic material in the virus is mostly RNA. But in the plants, but in animals and humans, the mostly attacking not like that only RNA. It is maybe RNA, it is maybe DNA also. So they transmit disease from disease to healthy hosts. They can transmit to the disease to healthy host. If they harm the one cell, if they reproduce thousands of army, then it is attacking to the different types of cells. They invade into the healthy host also. They can reproduce inside the host and produce their copies. They produce their own copies. Show irritability and the trait of organisms. These are the traits mean nothing but characters children, characteristics which is shown by the, these are the living characteristics which is shown by the viruses. So as they are exhibiting non-living characteristics also and living characteristics also, they are placed in a borderline between living and non-living categories. So conclusion, what we can by the end of this, what we can conclude children, viruses show traits of both characters of both living and non-living beings also. They reproduce only inside the living cells, which why scientists consider them as exciting on the borderline between the living and non-living organisms, as they are exhibiting living characters also and non-living characters also. Inside the host only they are showing the characteristics of living organisms. So that is why they are placed in a borderline between, without host they are exhibiting the non-living characteristics. That is why they are placed in between the borderline between living and non-living characteristics. So this is what up to the viruses children. So let's meet tomorrow session. Before winding up the class children, I would like once again to tell you the very important topic, very important news children. So we are started the batches of summer camp. So it is both offline also and online also. Who want to join offline children, they can happily come to our institute name called NEET World, present in Hyderabad near Narayani metro station. Those who want to access through online children, they are near down scrolling number is there no children. So contact with that number and access free classes of 1 week in the app. So you can contact with that number with us. So we will available, and the main motto of our summer camp is to learn the basics from 6th standard to the 10th standard. So those who are upcoming students of 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th, it is very useful to you children. So I hope you all aware of this important news. The all topics should be covered on the basis of examination of NEET and JEE. The mode of medium is English medium for both CBSE also and SSE also. And mainly one thing children, the one-on-one interactions, doubt clearing sessions will be provided, and for weekly quizzes and cumulative assessments will be provided to you children. So thereby you can you get the basics from the basics to the higher level. So it can helpful to your to achieve your goals. So this is what the our summer camp course children. For every 15 days it going to starts a new batch. So you can happily access our classes. So this is what up to today's session children. Let's meet in the tomorrow session. Thank you.